Hello everyone. Today we're going to take a look at some JavaScript functions. So some of the topics we're going to cover is just function declaration, function calls, the return keyword, the fat arrow syntax, ES6 syntax, and some other minor function related things. Cool, so let's get right to it. So to start off, so essentially what a function is just a block of code that has a name attached to it. And that name, once we call that name, it runs that block of code for us. So let's go ahead, let's declare a function here. We're going to call it adjust. And we could do, I don't know, let A equals 5, let B equals 7, B plus A, console.log A. Let C equals B plus A, console.log C. So now we have this block of code here from line 2 through 5. That's what the body is. And then we have a function called adjust, okay? And now whenever we feel like running this block of code here, all we have to do is call the function by its name and then pass in parentheses right after like this. That's how you do a function call. And now if we give it a run, we get 12 logged to our console. 5 plus 7, logged it here, we get 12. Cool, so that's basically the gist of functions. So with functions, you're allowed to have a couple of default parameters. So so let's start by passing in some parameters. We're gonna have a and a B parameter, and instead of setting it here, we're just gonna pass it in here. So we could pass in whatever numbers we want. So let's say we pass in 4 and 7. So now this 4 of 7 here is going to take the place of the A and B variable. Those are the two parameters we have. So we passed in 4 and 7 as an argument to our function. Now it takes the place of the A and B variable. We add it here, set it equal to C, and we log it. So we should get 11 printed to our console. Give it a run. Cool. We get 11. And another cool thing with functions is you can have a default parameter. So if you want, you could have 4 here, 5 here or something. And now if you actually call the function without passing anything in, it already has default values of 4 and 5 for B, so it's just going to add those for us. We give it a run, we get 9. Okay, cool. Alright, so we got 9 for that. And next thing we want to go ahead and take a look at is really just the return keyword. So right now we're just logging everything right here directly from our function. So let's say we didn't want to do that. Let's say we wanted to do like a console.log of adjust. So we wanted to get a value from our function and then we log it later on. Okay, so if that's what we wanted to do, take this out, save it. Here we're adding the A and B variables and storing it to C, but we're not really doing anything else with it here. Our function just stops after that. So if we run this, if we try to log this on line 5, if we run this, we get undefined. So that's where the return keyword comes in. So you need the return keyword. You should do something like return C. And now it's going to return the value of C from that function for us. Now if we give it a run, cool, we get 9. Alright, cool. Alright, so what was the next thing we wanted to go ahead and take a look at here? Alright, so we looked at default values, and also with functions, For example, here, since we have the default values, that's why it just added that 4 and 5 for us. But if we took this out, if we tried running it, we're just going to get not a number. The reason for that is we're trying to add undefined and undefined. At this point here, we didn't assign anything to A and B, so they're just undefined. We try to add them, we get not a number. So if we actually did this, if we took this out, and we just do a console.log of A and B, since we already have our console.log in the function, no need to have it here. Save it. We should get undefined, print it to our console twice. Nice. Nice. Okay. And let's say we wanted to log something in our function and then return something. Let's say we wanted to return a value of 6 or something like that. So we could, and then we'd be getting 6 back from here, so we could actually log it here at that point. Let's do console.log. Adjust, save, run it. We should get undefined, undefined, and then 6 logged to the console. Nice. If we move this return keyword up here before the console.log, so essentially with the return keyword, it's going to return whatever value you choose to return from the function, and then it's going to stop the execution of that function. So as soon as you use the return keyword, the function stops executing, and everything after the return keyword is null and void at that point. So the editor is actually giving us some good feedback here, as you notice. It's actually, it's like really pale right now. It's not nice and full as it was before when we had it like this. Moving up here, and now we should only get 6 logged to our console because line 3 never runs. Line 6, we get 6 back from the adjust function, and then we log it. Okay, nice. And yeah, I think that's mainly it. We went over the return keyword, looked at some functions. So last 2 things we're going to look at, some ES6 Arrow Syntax. So I guess the equivalent of an ES6 Arrow Syntax for the function we have right now would be something like, let's do let adjust equals open parentheses your fat arrow syntax, open it up, and that would essentially be the equivalent of that. So we could put in our A and B parameters here as well, like we did before. And let's say we do A plus B. So I'm going to show you one difference between the ES6 arrow syntax and the regular function syntax. Let's go ahead and comment this out. On here we have a line 8, we have a function called adjust that has an A and B parameter, and what it does is, all it does is add those two variables for us. So if we come over here on line 10, we call adjust. Okay, let's do a console.log of adjust, and then we're going to pass in 4 and 5, so I'm assuming we should get 9 printed to the console. Let's run it. We get an error. Cannot, oh, true. Let's give it a run again. We get 9 printed to the console. So essentially, if you do the fat arrow syntax and you have yourself a nice succinct one-liner like this, where you don't have any curly brackets right after the arrow syntax, you can completely omit the return keyword and it just automatically returns it for us. Remember in the earlier functions, if we didn't have the return keyword, it didn't return anything, the function was just undefined. But here, since we have a nice succinct one-liner, after the fat arrow syntax we don't have the curly brackets, the return keyword is just assumed, so it just returns it for us. Right here we log 9. So I'll show you an example here. If we go ahead and add those curly brackets, if we save it, now we should actually get undefined for it. We get undefined, and that's because we don't have the one-liner anymore. We have a block of code to run. If we wanted to get our value again, we'd have to add the return keyword in this instance. We save it, give it a run, we get 9 again. If we didn't want to have the return keyword, if it was a really simple function, we could just remove these brackets here, save it, return keyword is assumed. Awesome. So last thing we're going to take a look at is the arguments object. Yes, so with every function in JavaScript, it comes with something called an arguments object. So inside of any function, if you go and do like a console.log of arguments, which again is a built-in object that comes with functions, you're gonna get all the different arguments that you pass into that function. So for example, let's say we come over here, we call our add to function, and then we pass in 3, 4, 7, 0, whatever we want. Save it. Let's comment this out for our purposes for now. If we run it, we get the arguments object that has all the different arguments that we passed in. Cool. So if we did like argument 0 or something, then we would get 3. Arguments 1, we should get 4, etc. Nice. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to go over when it comes to functions in JavaScript. So we went over the return keyword, we went over the ES6 Arrow Syntax, and the difference between that syntax and the regular function syntax. We went over variable function declarations, passing parameters, default parameters to the functions, passing in arguments, and also the arguments object. So if you enjoyed this video and gained any type of value from it, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.